Happy Friday, Pierce Patriots. Today we're going to do our very first chapter Friday. The book that I've chosen is Skeleton Tree by Kim Ventrella. Kim is also the author of a couple other books, Bone Hollow and Hello Future Me. She also has a new book coming out, I think in November, maybe October. But both Bone Hollow and Hello Future Me have been put on order for the library, so hopefully they'll be in within the next week or so. But I'd like to share the first chapter from Skeleton Tree for you. I'll just read you the back here just to kind of give you like an idea of what it's about. It says, Stanley only stopped once to look back at the bones. Maybe it was his imagination, but he could have sworn that the finger twitched, like it wanted him to come closer. He remembered the feeling he'd had when he first saw the bone, like nothing would ever be the same again. The bone changed things, and no matter how hard he might try, he could never go back to before. So that's the synopsis on the back of the story. So we obviously have a character named Stanley. He's actually, I think, around maybe like 10, 11... 12. I think he's 12. A 12-year-old boy. His little sister, Mirren, is also a main character in the story. Some things that I've heard about the story: sad, funny, sweet. So lots of different emotions from this book. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait to read it. So we're going to start with chapter 1. Skeleton Tree. Chapter 1. The day the rain stopped, Stanley Stanwright found a bone in the garden, poking up out of the dirt. It could have been a bean sprout, only it was white and hard and shaped like the tip of a little finger. Stanley bent down to investigate. A shiver tickled his toes and curled all the way up the back of his neck. He touched the bone, quick, like it might bite. Cold seeped from the bone finger into his fleshy one. Wind slapped his face, blowing orange and brown leaves in from the neighbor's yard. In that moment, he felt like an explorer, like Dagger Rockbomb, hero of his favorite video game, Skate Park Zombie Death Bash. He might find something good hiding underground, like a dinosaur fossil. Or he might awaken a horde of slimy, flesh-eating zombies. Some days were like that. One little thing happened, and nothing else was ever the same. The day Stanley's sister was born, for example, or the night 10 months ago, when his father took a taxi to the airport and never came back. Finding the finger bone felt kind of the same way. "Hey, Bony Butt, don't you know it's treasure time?" said Mirren, racing down the cracked stone path and punching Stanley in the chest. "Oh, stop it, that hurt." He stepped in front of the bone so Mirren wouldn't see. The bone was his discovery. If Mirren saw it, she would tell Mom and ruin everything. Mom never let him dig in the backyard anymore, since Dad left. "You know what Mom said about running too fast?" "Oh, I can breathe fine," she said, and she shrugged and sprinted back to the house. "Last one to treasures, rotten nobody." "Egg," said Stanley, shaking his head. But Mirren was already gone. 7-year-olds get a lot of things wrong. Like how Mirren told him that cows pee milk, and playing video games can make your fingers fall off. Stanley wondered if he'd said dumb things like that when he was 7. He didn't think so. When he was 7, he already knew how to read and change diapers and get Mirren to take her medicine. Ugh, the kind that smelled like canned worms. Even Mom and Dad didn't know how to do that. "Stanley, you promised you'd be in the garage by 5 to 10. Your sister's waiting." Mom said this to me through the kitchen window. Her hair hung in wet curls around her chin. The one time something really important happened to him, and he had to leave. He felt bad about Mirren going to the doctor again, but why couldn't he do what he wanted just this once? Before he went inside, Stanley snapped a shot of the bone with his old Polaroid camera. He would have used a phone, but he didn't have one, and Mom's was so old it couldn't do anything but make calls. The photo came out all gray and blobby because Polaroids take ages to develop. "Stanley, hurry up!" Mom shouted. He shoved the photo in his pocket and ran for the garage. Before he got in the car, he grabbed a Diet Coke from the mini fridge that he'd helped Dad pick out last year at a yard sale. The sides were still rusty because Dad had left before he could repaint them. In the station wagon on the way to the doctor, Mirren started coughing. Big, wet coughs that made her entire body shudder. I don't want to go to the doctor," Mirren said. She cupped her eyes and she started to sniffle like she was still 3 instead of 7. Mom rolled down a window so some air could reach Stanley and Mirren in the back seat. "Well, what about the treasure chest?" said Stanley. Even though it was filled with baby stuff, Mirren loved to pick out a toy from the inflatable treasure chest in Dr. Cynthia's office. She loved it even more than cheeseburgers or those spinny things that you get at the school carnival. She told him once, in those exact words. She sucked in a deep breath that made her chest rattle. "Nope, I changed my mind. I'm allowed to do that, you know. I hate Dr. Cynthia and her stupid treasures." Inside, Stanley was sighing. A tiny part of his brain hated how Mirren always acted like a baby and how it was always up to him to make her feel better. But Stanley knew what to do when he felt like that. He sliced off that part of his brain and he fed it to his pet zombie. The zombie had green skin, 2 bulby eyes, and chomping teeth that were always hungry. His name was Slurpee, just like the pet zombie in Skate Park Zombie Death Bash. "I want to go home," Mirren cried. Chomp, chomp went the zombie in Stanley's head. That was the nice thing about Slurpee. He was always ready to gobble up Stanley's problems, no matter how big and stupid. "Why don't we play a game?" said Stanley. If Mirren didn't stop screaming soon, he was pretty sure his head would actually explode. "That's a good idea," said Mom, hands clenching the steering wheel. She always got stressed out when she had to drive in traffic. Why don't you play I Spy? Okay, sweetie?" Mirren squinched up her face, suspicious. "What if I don't want to play?" The stoplight turned red at the last minute and Mom slammed on the brakes. Stanley knew it was time to step in. "Oh, come on, Mirror Bear. I'll even let you go first." "And second?" "All right, and second." Okay. She squeezed her eyes shut, which she always did when she was thinking really hard, and then she blurted out, "I spy with my little eye something white hiding in the backyard that Stanley doesn't want me to know about." Mirren was so excited that she pounded her fist on the seat, knocking over Stanley's soda. "Oh, stop doing that!" Stanley snatched his can and wiped up the bit that had spilled with the inside of his t-shirt. In his mind, he fed a little bit more of his frustration to Slurpee. Tell me, Bony Butt, tell me about your secret." "I don't have any secret." Stanley didn't mean to sound like that, but he couldn't help it. Mirren always got whatever she wanted, no matter what, but the bone was different. It was his. Besides, the last thing that Stanley needed was for Mom to find out about the bone. She'd probably call pest control to come remove it. Ever since Dad left, she hated everything that reminded her of him, like dusty books, digging, the smell of his cinnamon aftershave. In the front seat, Mom turned up the radio so loud it was mostly static. Mirren just curled into a tiny ball and buried her head in her hands. Stanley didn't like seeing her like that, but sometimes she made him so angry. It was a good thing he had Slurpee to keep the whole brain exploding situation under control. "Well, come on, let's just keep playing, okay?" he said. Mirren didn't answer. She curled up tighter and sniffled into her hair. That was her little sister's superpower. No matter how annoying she got, she could always make you feel bad for yelling at her. I'll let you go first, second, and third, he said. Well, what about fourth? Okay, fine. You can go fourth, too. I spy with my little eye. And then she paused. Stanley was sure she was going to say something else about the bone, but just then the station wagon lurched into the Spring Hill Pediatric Clinic. Mom pulled Stanley aside once they got to the waiting room and said, "Thank you for taking care of Mirren back there. It's just, things have been really hard lately. I'm proud of you, Stanley. You've been a big help with your little sister. I hope you know that." "Oh, it's okay, Mom. No big deal." They sat down in cushy chairs with stiff arms. Mom flipped through a copy of Dog Fancy magazine. She ran her chipped fingernails over a picture of a Pekingese with perfect flowing hair. Last year, she'd saved $1,500 to go to school to be a dog groomer. But then she'd spent it all on Mirren's doctor bills. "She'll get better soon," Mom always said. Stanley sure hoped so. If Mom could be a dog groomer instead of a cashier at Walgreens, then things would be better, like before Dad left. She would smile more, and she could work from home, so Mrs. Francine wouldn't have to come watch them after school. And maybe Stanley could finally afford a computer that didn't crash every time he tried to install the latest version of Pixel Blocks, or a camera that didn't take 100 years to develop. "The doctor's ready for you now," said a nurse. She gave Mirren a lollipop shaped like a duck, the kind of thing you give to a 2-year-old. "Follow me, sweetheart." "We'll be back in a few minutes," Mom said to me. "Find a magazine to read." Stanley never got to see the doctor with Mirren and Mom, like all of a sudden he was too young to hear about her problems. He slouched down in his chair and stared at the wall. It was covered in faded Halloween decorations. If he had an iPad like Jackson, he could play Pixel Blocks or Ancient Aliens Attack, or even better, Skate Park Zombie Death Bash. Instead, he picked up an old copy of National Geographic magazine. His dad used to buy him a subscription to it every year, but this year he'd forgotten. Stanley skimmed past articles about owls and hunters in Alaska until he found a section about some guys in Africa who had uncovered the skeleton of a new type of dinosaur, one that nobody had ever heard of before. An image flashed inside his head. There he was, wiping sweat from his brow as he swung his pickaxe into the rock. Ping, ping. The rock would crumble away, and there underneath, a bone. The daydream faded and was replaced by an image of a finger sticking up through blades of grass. He still had the archaeology toolbox that his dad had given him for Christmas 2 years ago. It had chisels and tiny brushes for uncovering bones. Going to Egypt or India or somewhere far away to dig for bones would be amazing. But what if he had an undiscovered species buried in his own backyard? He flipped through the rest of the magazine, and then his heart stopped. On the back cover was an ad for something called the Young Discoverer's Prize. It showed a picture of a boy holding a dinosaur tooth in his hand, but that wasn't the best part. Next to the boy's head, in puffy gold text, was the number 10, followed by 3 zeros, as in $10,000. Stanley skimmed all the way to the end of the ad. His palms were tingling. It said, "Send us a picture of your discovery by midnight on October 31st, and you and one guest will get a chance to win a trip to a real archaeological dig site worth $10,000. That was a lot of money. But that wasn't the part that leapt off the page and ping, ping, pinged in Stanley's head. The article said, "You and one guest." Stanley scanned the fine print. The guest could be anyone the winner wanted as long as they were over 18. Well, that was fine by Stanley. His dad might not be good at returning calls or checking his email, but if Stanley won this contest, he'd have to come and see him. He'd be his one guest. Archaeology had been Dad's one true dream before he gave it up to go to law school. No way he would turn down a trip as awesome as this one, no matter how busy he was at work. The door to the doctor's office swung open, and Stanley had to think fast. He ripped the page out of the magazine and he slipped it in his pocket before Mom could see him. He knew that tearing up other people's magazines was wrong, and Mom would flip if she saw it. But he had no choice. The contest was too important. The specialist will call you to set up an appointment. That was the nurse as they put their hand on Mom's shoulders. We'll find out what's going on. Don't you worry, Miss Stanwright. Look, Stanley, look, I got a horsey and a sticky hand, see? The sticky hand slapped Stanley's forehead. Yep, I see. Mirren giggled. Hold up your hand. Okay, Stanley sighed. Mirren gave him a high five with the sticky hand. Amazing, Stanley said. Let's go, you two. I've got to be at work by 12. Mom's eyes were red like she'd been crying. What's wrong? Stanley said as they walked out the front door into a drizzly rain. Help get your sister strapped in, okay? Mirren gave him a big wet kiss on the forehead when they dropped her off at Happy Friends Playhouse, a.k.a. Baby Daycare. Bye, Stanley. I'm sorry I called you Pony Butt. Don't be mad at me, okay? Stanley couldn't help but laugh. Mirren might be mega annoying, but she was still his little sister. Also, she had a sad face that made her look exactly like a baby spider monkey he'd once seen on the Nature Channel. It was her second little sister's superpower, and it was impossible to ignore. Okay, I guess I'm not mad at you, for now. Yeah, score one for Team Me! And Mirren punched the air and ran for the front doors, Mom chasing after her. Stanley was too old for daycare, and Miss Francine had that Saturday off, so he got to spend the day at Jackson's house, which was way better than sitting at home all day while Miss Francine boiled cabbage and played sad songs on the radio. Outside, rain splattered the car window, making Stanley's reflection go all long and wobbly. They pulled up to a stoplight, and Stanley caught Mom frowning at a doctor's bill in her lap. The edges of her mouth went all creasy, and he thought he knew why. Down at the bottom of the page was a number in bold red type. He couldn't see the first part, but it ended in 3 zeros. A car honked behind them. Mom stuffed the bill back into her purse and slammed on the gas. Have fun today, she said. Call me if you need me. Stanley didn't say anything. He was too busy thinking about the Young Discoverer's Prize. Maybe he could trade in the trip for cash. He was sure that $10,000 would be enough to pay off Mirren's doctor bills, maybe even with enough left over to buy a new camera or an iPad. But then he might never get to see Dad. Sweetie, are you all right? You look 1,000,000 miles away. What? Oh, it's nothing. I'm fine. He looked at his mom, the way her eyes were still pink and puffy. Did something bad happen today at the doctor's? Oh, Stanley, you don't need to worry about that. It's just promise me you'll have fun today, okay? Okay, Mom. Stanley watched the station wagon drive away. He wished Mom would tell him what she was thinking instead of always keeping secrets. He crammed his hands into his pockets, and that was when he remembered the photo. He smoothed it out, and he held up his jacket to keep it from getting wet. It didn't look like a gray blob anymore. It was definitely a finger bone. And it wasn't pointing straight in the air like it had been when he'd snapped the shot. Now that finger bone was pointing directly at him. Wow, what a first chapter. So we got a lot of information in that chapter. Met pretty much most of the main characters and got a little background on the kids. Golly, I'm very excited to read the rest of the story. Remember that if you'd like to check out Skeleton Tree, just go to our Pierce Patriot Library Canvas page. Click on the curbside pickup, follow the directions to put this book on hold, and then Miss McLam will give you a call when it's time to drive up and pick up your library books.